The news is that President Donald Trump is now trying to get back the Bagram military base in Afghanistan. Yes, the same base that the Americans left behind in 2021. So what exactly is happening? Why does United States want it back? And what is the strategic significance of this base? We will cover everything in simple terms through map. So United States President Donald Trump has publicly said that he's trying to get the Bagram air base in Afghanistan back from the Taliban. In fact, he announced this during a press conference in the United Kingdom. This has created a lot of tension because just a few days ago, the Taliban government firmly rejected this idea. A senior official from the Taliban's foreign ministry said on social media that Afghans have never accepted a foreign military presence in their country. They made it very clear that not even an inch of Afghan soil will be given to the Americans for military use. So on one side, you have Trump saying he's trying to get it back, and on the other side, the Taliban is saying no way. This is the big headline that is now making waves globally. So where is this Bagram military base? Bagram Air Base, for those who don't know, is not just a small outpost. Neither is it just about a pin on the map. It's a whole geopolitical story, especially when you look at it from a Central and South Asia's perspective. It was the biggest and most important US military installation in Afghanistan for 20 years. It is located about 40 to 60 kilometers north of Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. This base was originally built by the Soviet Union back in the 1950s. Then, as you know, United States took control of Bagram airfield in late 2001 in response to the September 11 attacks. In October 2001, the US military and its allies, including the Afghan Northern Alliance, quickly toppled the Taliban regime. By early December, a team from the United Kingdom's Special Boat Service, a special operations unit, secured the Bagram airfield. Soon after, US troops, primarily from the 10th Mountain Division, arrived to establish a presence, provide security and clear the runway from any explosive ordnance. From there, Bagram became the largest US military installation and the central hub for United States and NATO operations in Afghanistan for nearly 2 decades, until the final withdrawal of American forces in 2021. You can think of Bagram Air Base like a main junction. The base is in Afghanistan, but its location is its real power. It is sitting right at a major crossroads, close to the borders of China, Pakistan, Iran and Central Asia. This is why America always wanted it. It's like having a top seat to watch all the action in the region. And here's the most interesting part. For years, Bagram's lifeline was through Pakistan. Afghanistan is a landlocked country, right? So most of the supplies for the United States and NATO forces, from food to fuel, came through Pakistan's port in Karachi. From there, they traveled by road through 2 main routes, one through the Khyber Pass to Kabul and other through Balochistan to Kandahar. This dependency on Pakistan for supplies gave Pakistan a lot of political leverage. Whenever Pakistan's establishment needed anything from the United States, they would link their demands to the security of those routes. This turned into a constant headache for the US military, often forcing America to concede, whether in the form of money, aid or other benefits. In that sense, accessibility wasn't just about physical roads. It was also a calculated political bargaining chip for Pakistan. Now let's talk about the big picture. The US sees this whole region, South and Central Asia, as one big chessboard. The whole talk about getting Bagram back suggests a strategy where they are looking to re-establish a military and political foothold. This isn't just about Afghanistan anymore. It's about a bigger plan to manage the competition with players like China and Russia. Having Bagram is like having a key piece on that board to project power and influence across the entire region. Now we know that the US left Bagram behind in 2021. Why is Trump suddenly so interested in getting it back now? The answer lies in the shift in US strategic focus. When the US withdrew from Afghanistan, the primary mission of counter-terrorism was largely considered over. But since then, the focus has shifted from fighting terrorists to what is called great power competition. And the biggest rival in this competition, as per the United States, is China. The reason Trump wants Bagram back is not because of Afghanistan, but because of China. The base is exactly 1 hour away by flight from where China makes its nuclear missiles, in its Xinjiang region. If you look at the map, it becomes clear why Bagram was so important. From this single base, the US could monitor Iran, India's Kashmir region, China's Xinjiang, and the whole of Central Asia. That's why it was seen as a central hub for regional operations. So the push to regain Bagram isn't really about fighting the Taliban or Al-Qaeda. The real objective is to secure a strategic vantage point, one that helps counter China's expanding military power, its influence in Central Asia, and to keep close watch on the other countries I just mentioned. But the main thing is that the US wants to monitor China's activities, including its nuclear programs and its massive infrastructure project. the Belt and Road Initiative, which is a major concern for them. Now let's talk about the even bigger picture. This move is not just about a single military base. This is about a complete change in US foreign policy, especially in the South Central Asian region. Strategically regaining Bagram would be a huge deal for the United States. Apart from China and Iran, it would also allow the United States to project power into Central Asia, where both Russia and China are trying to increase their influence. If you are aware, in the recent SCO summit held in Tianjin, China from August 31st to September 1st, 2025, there was a joint declaration from the summit that said Central Asian countries are the core of the SCO summit. And there were also many agreements signed by President Xi Jinping with leaders from Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan on areas like energy, technology, infrastructure, and cross-border roads. And I will tell you one more important thing. If you look at the SCO summit, we know that it is Russia and China who use the SCO summit to project their influence on Central Asian countries. If you look at the map, all these Central Asian countries are pretty much squeezed in between two major powers, that is China and Russia. So naturally, the SCO summit was always about Russia and China projecting their influence. But in this year's SCO summit, what we get to see is that the Central Asian countries have also shown that they don't want to be over-reliant on China or Russia. If they lean too much on China, they risk becoming economically dependent. If they lean too much on Russia, they risk being politically overshadowed. By engaging with both, they spread their risks. Central Asian countries can also negotiate better trade, energy or security deals by showing they have other options. Then through SCO, it also connects them to India, Pakistan, Iran and dialogue partners like Turkey. That means there are new trade, security and diplomatic opportunities beyond their immediate neighborhood. By keeping all this in mind, US wants to get back in Afghanistan. You see, US realizes that after leaving Afghanistan, Central Asia wants to keep multiple doors open by balancing Russia and China. They make sure no single outside power dominates their politics or economy. So that is an opening where United States think that they can fit in and justify their existence. Russia has political influence, China is pouring money. So United States thinks that Central Asian countries don't want to be trapped between Moscow and Beijing. So the US assumes that they can engage this time as a third balancing option. And then we also have to understand that apart from intelligence and countering China's military, there is also the economic and geopolitical value of rare earth minerals, which is a crucial part of the equation. So returning to Bagram will also allow the United States to get access to Afghanistan's valuable rare earth mineral reserves. As we all know, United States and its allies are heavily reliant on China for the global supply of rare earth elements, because of which earlier this year, China has suspended exports of wide range of critical minerals and magnets. And if you remember, in August 2025, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited Kabul. Part of the discussions was about practical mining operations this year in Afghanistan, and China expressed interest in jointly exploring and extracting minerals. So by controlling Bagram, the US would not only have a military foothold, but also a powerful influence. This would allow United States to influence American companies get access to mining contracts. Without a US military base, American companies would likely be reluctant to invest in a highly unstable and dangerous environment. Now here is something very important you must pay attention to. Recently, President Trump appointed 38 years old Sergio Gore as the new US ambassador to India, and at the same time as Special Envoy for South and Central Asia. Once the Senate clears his appointments, he will officially begin his work. But here's the important part. He is not just America's representative to India. His role extends over the entire South and Central Asian region. When an ambassador is given such a dual mandate, it's a clear signal that the US no longer views India in isolation. Instead, Washington is placing India within a large regional framework. In practice, this means American policies will be shaped with the whole region in mind and not just one country. And the reverse is also true. Developments in Central Asia could be influenced by India's position. For example, we know that India has already established channels and kept working lines open with the Taliban. Ajit Doval and the Indian Foreign Ministry have engaged with them multiple times. By appointing Sergio Gore in this dual role, the US gains a chance to leverage New Delhi's connections, whether with the Taliban or even with actors in Balochistan. This could help Washington re-enter the Afghan equation and nudge the Taliban towards accepting US terms. But there are problems to this line of reasoning. Taliban looks at India cautiously. While they allow dialogue, they also view India as close to the United States. If the Taliban feels India is acting as a proxy for Washington, it might backfire. Plus, any US-India coordination in Afghanistan will trigger a sharp response from Pakistan's military establishment. Since they see Afghanistan as their backyard, this could escalate friction. Now, more importantly, Russia, China and Iran all are watching US moves in Afghanistan closely. If they perceive India as helping Washington re-enter, they may push back, diplomatically or even through proxies. And then finally, India usually avoids being seen as an intermediary of US operations. New Delhi prefers autonomy in its Afghanistan policy, so it may not openly align with Washington's goals. So my line of reasoning is completely plausible. The dual role of the next US ambassador to India does open the door for the US to piggyback on India's link with Taliban and Baloch actors. But whether it actually happens will totally depend on how the Taliban, Pakistan and other regional powers react. It's a delicate chess game, not a guaranteed move. But anyhow, for US to establish control and influence in the South Central Asia region, it is essential for the US to have a forward operating base like Bagram. The appointment of Sergio Gore and the push for Bagram are two sides of the same coin. Both the moves point to a new US strategy to reassert its influence in this very important part of the world, especially to counter China, Russia and access Afghanistan's rare earth minerals. So, in conclusion, the push to get back Bagram is not just a random decision. It is a calculated and strategic move by the Trump administration to re-establish US power in a region that is becoming a major theater for global competition. I hope you found this video informative. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.